Welcome to the session. I am Smita Purohit. We are going to look at how we can help students with a YLE revision. Here on this slide, you have a list of 5 resources. They are useful for general preparation as well as for last-minute exam revision for students. Here are 3 important components of the teacher's handbook which you must use and take your students through before they take the YLE exam. Let's consider why we need to use the vocabulary list before the exam. It is very important to remember that all the words that appear in the YLE exam are part of the YLE vocabulary list. On this slide, you can see some reasons to take the students through the word list of the YLE. Let us go through the reasons one by one. Firstly, we need to identify the words that students know well, don't know, and might know. Secondly, we need to help students clarify words that they may know. Also, we need to help students learn words that they don't know. Last but not least, we need to help them revise the words that they do know. It is important to cover all these aspects, as children will need help to read and understand the words in the reading test, spell the words correctly in the writing tasks, recognize and process the word during the listening test, use and pronounce the words correctly in the speaking test. Here on this slide, you can see mentioned 4 reasons to take the students through the YLE word list. Based on the previous slide, please choose the reasons that you think will help them from the point of view of the exam. You have 30 seconds. B and D will help students from the point of view of the exam, while A and C are more general reasons which will contribute to vocabulary development and language enhancement. Let's now consider why we need to use the grammar and structure list before the exam. The teacher's handbook has the grammar and structures list prescribed for each level of YLE. You can have activities around the list to check, reinforce, or revise grammar points before the exam. This slide offers 2 activities that the teacher can design around the grammar list and conduct before the exam. In this way, the structures can be revised and reinforced. Let's now consider why and how we need to use the posters before the exam. Now you have a short task before you. Please read the 4 activities designed around the poster. Then, match the activities with the exam parts of YLE, which they help prepare the students for. Write the answers in your notebook. You have 45 seconds for this task. Now let's look at the answers. 1A, 2D, 3C, and 4B. Now let's see why we should show the speaking videos to the students. This slide gives the reasons for students to watch the speaking videos. Please read the points one by one. You have 20 seconds. We now come to the next resource, which is the sample paper for the reading, writing, and listening exams. We can conduct a mock test just before the actual exam by using the sample papers. Here's why we should conduct the mock test. Let me take you through the points. We need to give students a real feel of the exam. We need to make them realize the importance of time management. And we need to give them practice in aspects that they may not have exposure to, such as the listening test. While conducting the mock test with the help of the sample paper, you need to remember some very important points. Students need to be reminded of the best practices while using the sample paper for listening, reading, and writing parts of the YLE. Let me take you through them. Please remind students to form clear letters and put clear ticks or crosses wherever needed in a task. Students should avoid cursive handwriting and write in print. Please ask students to pay full attention and listen while the question or instructions end when listening to the audio. Remind them to stick to time limits for each task. There are two parts to planning the mock speaking test. You will need to plan some task or assignment or test for the whole class while you are conducting the mock test for each individual student. Secondly, you will need to conduct the mock test just like in the speaking video. Here are some tips and suggestions for you to plan the mock speaking test. It shows the two parts of planning you need to do for the mock speaking test. One plan for the whole class, which will help them engage while you are conducting the test, and one plan for each individual student who will be taking the speaking test. Please read all the points slowly, one by one. You have 30 seconds for this. The first 2 points are for the whole class. The remaining are for the individual student. Based on the previous slides' inputs, please have a look at the statements here and write yes or no. Write down the answers in your notebook. We have 30 seconds for this task. Please check to see if your answers are a match. Now that we have looked at ways and reasons for using the different resources and how to conduct a mock test, let us look at the exam tips for each part of the YLE. This slide gives some speaking exam tips which will help students to prepare for the different speaking parts of the YLE exam. Decide which exam tip is most relevant or appropriate to a particular part and level of the YLE speaking exam. Some tips can be general and relevant to all parts. Please write your answers in your notebook. You have 45 seconds for this task. Now, please check your work to see if these answers are a match with the ones you have in your notebook. This slide gives some reading and writing exam tips which will help students prepare for the different reading and writing parts of the YLE exam. Decide which exam tip is most relevant to a particular part of YLE reading and writing exam, and level. Some tips can be general and relevant to all parts. Please write your answers in your notebook. You have 40 seconds for this task. Now please check your work to see if these answers are a match with the ones you have in your notebook. This slide gives some listening exam tips which will help students prepare for the different listening parts of the YLE exam. Decide which exam tip is most relevant to a particular part of the YLE listening exam and level. Some tips can be general and relevant to all parts. You have 30 seconds to write your answers in your notebook. Please check to see if these answers match the ones you have in your notebook. So let's just review what we have covered in this presentation. We've talked about how to use various resources such as the teacher's handbook, the vocabulary list, the speaking test videos, the grammar and structure list, the posters, the speaking test videos, how to conduct a mock test, how to conduct a mock speaking test, and an overview for exam tips for each part of the test. We hope this was an informative session for you, and now you have a better understanding of the various techniques for exam preparation. Thank you for joining us.